Hi guys, and welcome to another kit review. Okay, so today we're having a look at one of these little tankettes. Okay, it is a Wiesel. It is a Wiesel 1A1-A2 tow, meaning that it is armed with the tow missile launcher. Okay, it's also armed with an MG3 machine gun. This one is by AFV Club, and the kit number is AF35265. It's in 1/35th scale. Okay, cost me around about $30, so I think that was reasonable kind of price for this one. I actually haven't seen one of these around for a while. It does come with photo etch, interior details, seats and radios and stuff like that. Okay, so this is a new tooling. This particular one came out in 2014. All right, so nice little tankette by AFV Club. So as you can see by the front cover, it's basically just the tank itself, and background is again repeated in a grey tone. All right, so let's have a look at the rest of the box. On the side you'll see photos of the actual model itself. Okay, it does say new tooling, glue rubber tracks. Okay, so it's gluable tracks in this one. It does have interior detail, night vision scopes, etc. that we used on the thing. Photo etch markings, and you've got markings here for what looks to be like 4 different vehicles. Okay, so that's not too bad. Mostly of course West German, Bundeswehr. All right, sorry, West German, German I should say. On the other side, 2 photos again. There's your tow launcher and a top-down view, plus the usual warnings. Okay, 14 plus, etc, etc. Okay, so this one is AFV Club. That's made in Taiwan. All right, so really nice little kit. AFV Club, really nicely detailed kits. So let's have a look and see what I picked up. It is quite a small box. Instructions. Yep, this is just basic. Actually gives you the variance of the Wiesel itself and how big the little beastie is. There's your instructions with colour on the front and back. This is a safety warnings, etc. Not for children under the age of whatever, etc, etc. There's your photo etch. There's your top of the hull, okay, and fittings. So this is quite a small little tank. This sprue has got your machine gun in it, okay, and other fittings for the hull. Even though this is a tankette, little tiny thing, all right, it does have a lot of small parts. So this is definitely for an experienced modeler. I wouldn't think this would be a beginner's kit. I don't think any AFV clubs are actually for beginner's kits. Next, bag out, it's got your wheels, and you can see little tiny wheels, and your track. It's very thin, but it is gluable. Next one out is your tow launcher, and the tow launcher can be mounted externally on a tripod, which is what the real one can do. The crew can actually take it off the tank and use it as a tripod mounted weapon. And there is your main hull. Okay, and to give you an idea of how big this tank really is, where are you? There you go. There is a standard Tamiya 35th scale Cooper wagon, and there is your Wiesel. Okay, I'll give you a better shot of that in a second. Okay, and that is it. Down the bottom here, just a couple other tanks that AFV Club put out, plus some accessories. Okay, so in a second we'll have a look at the instructions and the decals, and then the sprues. Okay, so let's have a look at the instructions. Really nice color photo of the Wiesel in full camo. Okay, you can make an A1 or an A2. Wiesel 1, tow missile launcher 1. The difference is very minor. The A2 is the later version. It has an extra radio aerial and also a GPS aerial. That's basically the only difference between the two A1, A2. So what you've got here on the front is history of the Wiesel in English and Chinese. Okay, fairly straightforward. Always good to read the histories. Overleaf, usual illustration as to optional parts, what to cut, what not to cut, what to glue, etc., how to apply decals, and your color callouts, which are fairly simple. So GSI Krios, which is hobby color, Mr. Color and Mr. Color Spray, Humbrol, Revell, and Life Color. If you're like me and you use a different color manufacturer like AK, I use almost exclusively Vallejo. I will just use their color references for modern German armor. Okay, so let's get started. So what we have here is just the back of the tankette going on with some fittings, etc. It does have an interior. What you've got here is your seats and your radio. Okay, so it does have color callouts throughout, how to paint the radios, the interior. The interior is all white. You do have here, this is your driver's instrument panel. It does have color callouts and how to paint it here, so that's really nice detail. I do like that. Overleaf. The wheels, so you just got your idlers, your road wheels, and your drive sprocket. Fairly simple, straightforward. I really do like that. And then you're just putting on a few suspension parts, okay, and then just your wheels. All right, so it does tell you up here there's 6 of these, 2 of those, and 2 of those. Just a matter of keeping them separate before you actually construct it. And then of course the tracks going on. So these tracks in theory glue together. Naturally enough, you won't put the tracks on until you've painted the whole vehicle. That would be just too hard. And then we get to fittings. Okay, so this is the upper hull. All right, these are just spare tow missile containers. They go on the back of the vehicle. It does have a really nice how to paint these with some decals, etc. that go on. The detail on this little kit is really nice. Down here we've got your fighting compartment periscopes with a really nice painting guide. Okay, so that is, I do like that, because a lot of things they just say that's the periscope, put that in there, and don't tell you how to paint it. All right, this one at least they tell you all these little details that you need to do. Then you've got your upper hull. Okay, so anything marked in G on here is photo etch, and I'll be going through later on and highlighting all the G's so I don't miss the fact that it's actually a photo etch and it needs to be bent or put in place correctly. Upper hull going on the lower hull, fairly straightforward. This is just a slightly different mark with type of Wiesel with different rocket launchers on it. Then you've got your tools, your right hand mudguard going on, and full painting for the taillights. Now this part here, okay, and this flat bit here, they're both photo etch, and it does show you how to bend the photo etch. All right, so that's really good. Then we carry on. These are your exhaust mesh shrouds. They're also photo etched. They will need to be bent into place, which is why this is not a beginner's kit. It's more for someone who's experienced with photo etch and is quite comfortable in bending it to the right shape. Then you just get onto the left hand side, mudguard, exhaust pipe going on. Okay, again, photo etch parts for the tail lights. Okay, and then overleaf, you've got the night vision and also the range equipment. All right, these go on top of the tow launcher, and then we move on to the tow launcher itself. All right, so color callouts again throughout, really nicely detailed. So you're putting the rangefinder and the night vision on top. Okay, Does show you exactly how to fit it. And then over here, this is your optional. So you can, if you want to not mount the tow launcher on the Wiesel, you can actually have it freestanding on a tripod. So the tripod is made up of these parts. That is this photo etch part, which needs to be bent in that particular shape. Goes between the tripod parts. And on the sprue, you'll see points where the actual legs, again, it does have photo etch points on the bottom here, okay? They go on the bottom of the legs. So the launcher itself is quite complex with photo etch and plastic parts to put together. So that's something that I'd probably be looking at. Might be a nice detail. Then you've got the top of the hull, back hatches, the spare missile containers going on. Again, painting details for the periscope for the fighting compartment. Overleaf, you've got mud flaps going on and other details like your mirrors and your headlights, etc., going on the front of the tank. Then you've got a couple of tools going on. It does have color call outs for all the tools, okay, fairly straightforward. And then we get to actual, unfortunately they're black and white photos, so the detail isn't that great, so I'd be using Google to find really nice intense photos. There must be walk around photos of the Wiesel out there somewhere, but these are good for a nice reference of where parts go and what they're supposed to look like. It's a shame they're not in color. And then we get down to the G3. Okay, so the G3, I'll bring it down a bit, does have the butt on it. You are required to cut the butt off, so to fit it into the mount on the vehicle. Okay, so that's not a hard thing to do, or alternatively you could just leave it off. But these Wiesels did have the G3 mounted as a defense machine gun. Okay, so I can't see you actually leaving it off, but you never know, you might want to do that. And then overleaf is just mounting the tow launcher on. Here you've got a couple of bits where you need to cut some paper. It does tell you the size and the thickness. All right, so this one part of the paper goes around the nozzle of the tow launcher, although why that isn't a decal I don't know. And the other one here is this one. Okay, another strip of paper. Two of those you need. There is a photo etch buckle, and they go on the front of the tank. Okay, and then it's just fitting some extra bits and pieces on, and then she's finished. Fairly straightforward, fairly easy finish off on this one. Then you've got your parts sprue call out. This is if you don't get a part or you're not happy with it, you can write to AFV Club and they'll replace it for you. And overleaf, we get to painting. So there are 4 painting and markings for this Wiesel. This is your basic. Okay, these are grayed out because it is black and white print, not because they're actually grey paint. This one here is an ISAF. Okay, there's your ISAF decals that go on the side, but the color was exactly the same. And this is your basic layout of fairly straightforward decals and painting. All the Wiesels will have exactly the same paint scheme. There's no variation. Like the Leopard A2, it's done by machine, automatically painted on, and all the camouflage is exactly the same for every tank. And just finishing off, this is an A2. Got an extra couple of aerials on it. Apart from that, the color scheme is exactly the same as the A1. Okay, so that is the instructions. I'll give you a brief look of this one. So this is what they included, which is your different variants. Okay, so this is your tow missile carrier, 20mm. This is the HOT missiles. This just gives you a size between the how they were changed from little tiny thing to slightly bigger. Reconnaissance, command post. This one carries 122mm mortar. Okay, 20mm with a missile and a reconnaissance vehicle. So they're the variations of a Wiesel one, and I'm wondering if AFV Club has plans to actually bring them all out. That would be interesting. Okay, so let's have a look at the photo etch and the decals. So let's have a look at the photo etch first. Okay, so what you've got here, I'll move that out of the way. These are your exhaust shrouds, okay? These are your buckles and hooks and things. Some of these parts are not used, but a lot of it is for the tail lights, etc. Oops, sorry, that was a bit glary. That is for the launcher when it's free mounted on the ground. The spokes there, I do not think they're being used in this kit, okay? I didn't see them in the instructions anywhere, so I'm not sure what they're for, but maybe that will reveal itself when it comes to building this one. Okay, so that's the photo etch. Let's have a look at the decals. Fairly straightforward. Yes, there are. See if I can get a reflection on there. You can just see the reflection of the white markings. These are the airborne markings, okay? So I'm not sure if they're going to come up in the still, but I'll give you a still photo anyway. ISAF, 4 sets of number plates, and standard Bundeswehr markings, okay? So these are airborne vehicles, and it does have the markings for the airborne unit in white. Okay, so that's the decals and the photo etch. In a minute, we'll have a look at the actual sprues. Okay, so let's have a look at the hull, and it is quite small. Okay, nothing to see inside. There is a detail on the bottom. Okay, these are just reinforcing ridges for the hull bottom. It does have some really nice bolt and suspension details on it. And to give you an idea of the size, so that's your Wiesel hull. This is the 35th scale Tamiya Kugelwagen. Okay, so that's how big this tank is. It's quite small. A little tiny thing. Has seating for 3 crew. That would be very, very cramped. So that's your hull. These parts, of course, will come off. There is one thing I've noticed about this hull. And there it is right there. Okay, that depression mark. And it is obvious on both sides. That will have to be filled well before any kind of construction needs to start on this. And that's disappointing, right? Otherwise, this is a really good kit, but it just has that. Okay, so that's your hull, lower anyway. Let's have a look at the first sprue, and this is your upper hull, of course. Driver's seat, radio, and driver's instruments, the back hatches, and some other fittings for outside. So let's have a look. There is your upper hull. It does have the non-slip patches for the crew to be able to get on top of this thing without sliding off. That's nice. I do like that. A really nice detail. There are your fighting compartment periscopes. There is a little bit of indent on a couple of them, but you won't see it because that part is actually inside the fighting compartment. Nice detail on these hooks and things. There are your radio and driver's instruments, and they will paint up quite well. You probably won't see them, but it's definitely worth putting a detail in. It's all experience, and it's all you know, good to do, that kind of thing. You know it's been done. You may never see it again, but just the techniques to do it, and like I said, the experience of doing it, it all counts towards the future. Okay, so that's the upper hull, driver's seat and radios, etc. So the next sprue is this one. Okay, so what you've got here is your G3 machine gun, tools and exhaust pipe, and other fittings for the hull, for your cables, etc. Okay, so let's have a look. Really nice G3. Yes, the butt does come off, but with all the other mountings and fittings, which are right there for the gun, it'll look really nice. I do love the detail on those cable cutters, really sharp. So the detail is really nice. It's sharp on this thing. Probably the only thing you need to do with that exhaust pipe is just drill out the end to give it a hole, so it is an actual exhaust pipe, but there's no flash, and the detailing is I'm quite impressed. It's very sharp. There is a photo etch sight to go on the G3. Okay, so that's really nice. I'm quite impressed with this little kit. So the next sprue we are going to look at is this one. This is the back of the hull, mudguard, and fittings and tools again. So there's a lot of tools to go in this little tank. So it is quite crowded outside on it. That's the back, right? There's not a great deal of detail because a lot of it gets added on. Okay. There are some sink marks on some of these things, but nothing obvious, and there's a couple of sink marks on that there, which I believe is a radio base, but that's easily fixed. Okay, apart from that, flash non-existent, and the detailing is quite superb. I do like the way it's been done. Very sharp, very sharp, and the bolt detail is yeah, I do like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Okay, so the next one out is one of the main components. This is your tow missile launcher. These are your legs for the tripod stand. This is your launcher, and these are your night vision and range finding. So let's have a look. Okay, really nice sharp detail on that. Okay, remember there is quite a lot of photo etch to go on the tripod. Okay, but the missile launcher itself, all right, and the detail on the rangefinder and infrared night vision, beautiful. Okay, the detail on the controls, switches, etc. for the launcher, all right, really sharp. Okay, so that's really nice, and the way it's been put together by AFV Club, it's obvious that there's room to add in, change the kit to the other types of Wiesel available, like reconnaissance, etc. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to these two sprues. Right, these of course are your wheels, so I'll get rid of one of these because they're two sprues exactly the same. Okay, and have a look at the detail on those wheels. The drive sprockets are these ones up here, and you've got your idlers, etc. But that is beautiful detail. All right, you've got a couple of suspension parts in here, but the bolts are quite sharp, and that is quite good. Let's have a look. Yep, see, down to every small detail, and I am quite impressed with those and the way they put the holes through those. That's really sharp, really nicely done, and it shows that they actually care about what they're producing. Okay, so that's the wheels, that's the sprue. That's the sprues. What we've got left is literally just these. Okay, your vinyl tracks, and these are mud flaps, and look at the detail on mud flaps. Okay, got bolt and detail on it. It's really nicely sharp. Okay, there's your tracks. Gives you a really good idea how small this kit is, how small those tracks are, and yes, apparently they will glue together, I believe. Okay, so that is it, I believe, guys. That is get rid of that, move that way. That is the Wiesel from AFV Club. Okay, kit number is AF35265. Right, it is a really nice, highly detailed little kit. Definitely not a beginner's kit, but definitely for someone who's got a bit of experience with photo etch and loves the detailing. I do love this little kit. Okay, and that's all I've got to show you for this one. Hope you've got something from it. Really nice little kit. Definitely one for the collection, I would say. It's not going to take much room up on the shelf anyway. Okay, so as usual, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for your subscriptions and your comments and your likes. Really, really appreciate it. Okay, and as usual, because this is the end of this one, until next time, take it easy, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you later.